G'day Spurs fans, it's Paul the Hotspur hippie here. It's a real horrible, drizzly, wet, car crashy sort of day in Sydney. So here I am up in the roof. Nature is a bit wild today. Just thought I'd tell you about three things I saw in the last day which might tickle your fancy, might not, and details of an exciting new competition. So the first thing I saw was an interview on Optus Sport between Mark Schwarzer, former Socceroos goalkeeper, and Mile Jedinak, Dobro, Spurs coach, hired by Ange Postecoglou, former captain of Australia, lifted the Asian 2015 Cup. And that was pretty, I like that because I haven't really seen Mile Jedinak interviewed much. And you can see he's, like a lot of Australians, has come through football the tricky way. Ended up at Crystal Palace and Aston Villa before Ange poached him from the grasp of those people that live near the bull ring or whatever. And you can see he's got a real determination about it. Apart from him looking, I don't know, I wouldn't argue with him. There's no way I'd be arguing. If Mile Jedinak said 2 sugars, Paul, I'd be up there like a flash, man. But he's got that steely resolve, just like Ange has, to always keep on improving. So this is the thing that they both did while they were players, always trying to, see what they could get out of training, see how better they could be on the pitch. And now that they're at the more tactical end of the thing, they're looking for any little advantage they can get in training so that the boys are ready for the next match. So it's a great interview. If you don't know much about Mile Jedinak, it's worth having a view. Next thing I saw was one of my favourite podcasts, one of the 3 podcasts I listen to regularly. It was the Steve Perryman podcast, and he did a feature for the Spurs show, which is the second one of the other ones podcasts I listen to, with Theo Delaney. That was really interesting, actually. There's 2 parts to it. Part 1's out, and it's just talking about Steve Perryman's 8 goals, 8 important goals, not necessarily that he scored or Tottenham scored, but just goals that were important to him. And very, very clever idea, because it leads into lots of stories and segues about football and non-related things. Steve plays a few songs. I didn't know you're such a Motown aficionado, which is pretty cool. So I won't spoil anything on that one. But if you watch it on Steve Perryman's podcast, what I found interesting was he bookends the interview with a little intro and outro. And in the outro, man, he mentions the Chelsea game. And he seemed pretty happy with what he saw as well. So I don't feel alone in thinking that we did the right thing against Chelsea. It was a useful thing to do. And if our longest serving player, our most decorated player, thinks it's all right, then who am I to argue with that? So it was very interesting. And it was good to see, it was good to hear Steve being quite upbeat and positive about the way things are at Tottenham. He said that Ange is setting the tone, which is nice. You need the gaffer to run the place. And if you've got the right man, which we have at Tottenham Hotspur, by far the greatest football team the world has ever seen. We've got the greatest manager the world has ever seen. Results might not go our way in the current state we're in. But that's not up to Ange, that's up to the players. It's the same players that we've had around the place, and some of them just aren't grabbing chances. That's beyond Ange's control. But give it a couple of windows, and all those problems will be behind us. So we're in good hands with Ange Postecoglou. Now, speaking of Ange Postecoglou, the third thing I saw was Last Word on Spurs. Did an interview with a guy, John Greeken, Scottish guy. He's just written a book about Ange Postecoglou. And I found this chat they had with him so interesting that I've reached out to John, and hopefully I'm going to get him on for a chat to one of my streams sometimes, because he had lots of insights into Ange that I didn't know about, and it was very interesting. And the thing I really liked about the way Ricky Sachs and the other guy, I can't remember his name, the other host, I really like the way they were talking about Australian football. It's like the penny's dropping that it doesn't really matter what system you come up through. If you've got football, you've got football. And Ricky and the other guy, they were certainly talking about football in Australia with a with a great deal of respect, and almost like a validation that it is a proper way of getting into the sport. And it can be difficult because we're at the arse end of the world, as one of our former prime ministers said. So that was a good show by Ricky there. I really enjoyed listening to all of that, and I'm just keen to know from the author, you know, why Ange, because he seemed very enthusiastic about Ange Postecoglou, and I'm just wondering when, you know, his journey on the Ange Postecoglou Express got started, because it was interesting. I'll have to seek out that book as well. Lots of stories going back from his childhood, his younger playing days, his early coaching days. Yeah, looks pretty good, man. Looks pretty good. Of course, there's another book coming out in the new year by Vince Rigari, friend of the show. Wait him in my car. That'd be interesting as well. Now, as a bit of fun, I've started a predict the Premier League competition. Here are the details. There's a few sites that do things like this. What I've done is I've picked one that you don't really have to give your life savings away to as far as information goes. It's just an email address. It doesn't even ask you to validate the email address. You don't have to check your email and authorise and all that sort of rubbish. It's free. Starting this week. There's a few people in there already, which is kind of cool. I thought it might just be me. Bit of a shame really, because if it was just me, I'd be winning. But there's no chance I'm going to win this thing. But it's free. Now there's a league code down there as well. If you put that league code in, join up and join the party. And there's not going to be a prize for anyone who wins, unless I like become a YouTube millionaire by next year, which is unlikely. But if I do, I don't know, I'll sort out a bag of crisps and a can of fizzy pop or something like that. But don't hold me to it. So that's free. Get your entries in if you want to join. Just predicting scores and whatnot. Just a bit of fun. And it's football weekend, isn't it? It's Friday here in Australia. It's football. Football time is here. Only 3 more days. 3 more days. Or hang on, what's today? Friday, Saturday. Well, it's kind of 2 more nights really, because it's at 1 a.m. here. Kick off Tottenham versus Aston Villa. 1 a.m. which is kind of which is all right. But I've gone without Tottenham for so long. I'm just excited. I don't care who's on the pitch. Destiny Udogie apparently is going to be fit to play, which is great news. So we're going to see some sort of improvement over our last performance at Wolves. So until next time, folks, peace and love, man, and come on you Spurs.